The best and worst stats for every Blaseball team in Season N1, an analysis article by Firewall Andrews, published Saturday, January 14th, 2023. The postseason of Blaseball's first season of the new era continues, but Firewall continues to want to look back, considering the notable stats from the regular season that was. After 90 games, every team showed strengths and weaknesses, so here's a look at what every team did best and where they should be looking to shore things up during the election. The Atlantis Georgias. The Georgias scored a ton of runs in a lot of different ways, not relying on the homer, but instead leading the league in sacrifice hits and ranking 5th in triples. This is the sort of power hitting that should translate well into this new era of defensive baseball. However, the Georgias do need to strike out more batters, racking up the fewest Ks of any team, 517, for the first season. The Baltimore Crabs. The Crabs' pitching staff allowed the fewest home runs in the league in Season N1, which is great. It's also one of the few standout areas for Baltimore, who need a bit more star power to move up in the standings. The team finished in the bottom third of the league in total bases and runs scored on offense this past season. The Boston Flowers. Only the lift allowed more home runs than the Flowers' pitching staff this season, which will hold Boston back in its aspirations in future seasons. However, they also struck out the third most batters, so there is a glimmer of hope that the underlying stats for Boston bullpen are better than what we saw in the field this first campaign of the new era. The Breckenridge Jazz Hands. The Jazz Hands were 2 strikeouts above last place among pitching staffs. Not a great place to be. However, they picked up in the 4th most triples in the league, showing that they still know how to put on a captivating show in Breckenridge. The Canada Moist Talkers. The Talkers have some of the weaker power bats in the league, ranking 21st in team slugging percentage and near the bottom in runs scored. However, no team hit more singles than the Canadiens, which means, with a bit of time in the gym and turning those singles into multi-base hits, the Moist Talkers could be in for a quick turnaround. The Charleston Shoe Thieves. The Shoe Thieves come in second in singles hit behind the Talkers, but don't have quite the same problem picking up extra base hits, ranking 7th in total bases in the ILB this season. However, they may want to avoid putting runners on first, as they hit into the 5th most double plays of any team in the ILB in this first season of the new era. The Chicago Firefighters. Let's focus on the positives first, and note that the Firefighters finished with a respectable 6.56 in strikeouts, good for 10th among the bullpen in the ILB. However, the offense was pretty bad, scoring the fewest runs and racking up the 2nd worst slugging percentage in the ILB. The Core Mechanics. A team after my own heart, the Mechs finished with the 3rd best strikeout-to-walk ratio in the ILB in this past season at 6.37 whiffs per free pass. However, the team was pretty mediocre at the plate, and while they have no clear weaknesses there, they failed to crack the top 10 in any meaningful team hitting stat outside of doubles and avoiding whiffs. That said, it's hard to find a negative thing to say about this team, and they're one to watch for the future. The Dallas Stakes. Despite having one of the best sluggers in the league in Vanilla Okie Dokie, the Stakes finished in the bottom 5 among offenses in OPS and on-base percentage. The pitching staff was great at keeping runners off the bases, though, as the team ranked 9th in WHIP, walks and hits allowed, per inning pitched. The Hades Tigers. Medi Caper was the lone bright spot on a pitching staff that led the ILB in walks issued in Season N1, where the Tigers really lacked consistency on the mound. The offense wasn't much better, ranking last in OPS. Sorry, Tigers fans, there really isn't much good to say about the team right now. Hades had arguably the worst statistical season in the ILB to start the new era. I guess we can break the rules and shout out Stevenson Heat for leading the ILB in double plays on defense. That's a positive. The Hawaii Fridays. The Fridays are a team I love to hate, as they are strong in one of my favorite stat categories, pitching strikeouts per 9 innings, where they rank 6th, but poor in one of my other go-to stats for pitching strength, walks per 9 innings, a stat which they are the 10th worst. This balances out to a very mid-strike-to-walk ratio, but it worked for Hawaii as they finished with the 4th best ERA in the sport. The Houston Spies. Only the Tigers issued more walks than the Spies, who definitely need to shore up their pitching staff in the offseason. However, the Bats showed some solid pop, coming in at number 6 in the ILB in slugging percentage in Season End 1. The Houston Spies. Only the Tigers issued more walks than the Spies, who definitely need to shore up their pitching staff in the offseason. However, the Bats showed some solid pop, coming in at number 6 in the ILB in slugging percentage in Season 1. The Kansas City Breath Mints. The Mints pitching staff was fantastic on the mound, racking up the second most strikeouts in the ILB at .752 and the second best whip at .825. It's hard to find many negatives about the team. They were only one of 5 teams to score over 300 runs, but strike out over 600 times. That's the one thing we could see propelling the Mints to an even better season, a bit more discipline at the plate. The Los Angeles Unlimited Tacos. However, no team struck out as often as the Tacos, who finished with just shy of 800 whiffs in 90 games at the plate. Not good. On the flip side, the team was great at keeping the ball in the park on defense, allowing the 4th fewest homers per 9 innings among pitching staffs to start the new era. The Mexico City Wild Wings. Well, they scored the most runs by a pretty wide margin, hit the most homers, struck out the least, and had the best OPS by nearly 100 points on offense, all while sporting a solid pitching staff. It's really hard to find a negative, but if we had to, they did hit into the most double plays of any team in Blaseball. I guess they could work on improving that. Maybe. The Miami Dale. The Dale ranked 6th in triples with 50, 53s, backwards that's 305, but they did struggle with keeping the ball in the park, allowing the 3rd most homers per 9 innings of any pitching staff, more than 1 per game. The Moab Hellmouth Sunbeams. The Beams! Oh, how I love you, Beams! No team came close to the Moab Hellmouth in the strikeout-to-walk ratio category, with the Sunbeams at 8.24 and the next closest squad at 6.67. However, that strong command came with a bit of risk, as the Beams allowed the 5th most homers per 9 innings in the league. The New York Millennials. The Mills really lacked pop at the plate, hitting only 66 homers, 4th fewest in Season End 1. However, they were one of 4 teams to finish with at least 700 hits, 30 triples, and 100 sacrifices, but with 30 or fewer double plays. This was a reach. Sorry, Mills fans. Not a lot of good to say about the stats this season. The Ohio Worms. Only the Tigers had a worse strikeout-to-walk ratio than the Worms, who whiffed only 532 batters in 90 games. The offense was far from consistent, but did offer a lot of pop, as the team was one of only 10 with more than 80 home runs on the campaign. The Philly Pies. The Pies' pitching staff was solid to start out the new era, ranking top 10 in strikes over walks as well as strikeouts, but could stand to improve at the plate with a team OPS of just 0.6, 4th worst in the ILB. The San Francisco Lovers. It was all or nothing for the Lovers, who had a respectable 90 home runs to rank 8th among ILB teams, but posted the 6th worst slugging percentage at 0.367. The Lovers will need to make more consistent contact to take advantage of the clear home run power on the roster. The Seattle Garages. The Garages were solid on both sides of the ball to start out the new era, with few obvious weak points, so we'll start with the bad news. They did walk 220 batters, one of 8 teams to issue over 200 free passes from the mound. However, they were top 10 in strikeouts, and on the offensive side, top 5 in OPS as a team. The Tokyo Lift. No team allowed more hits than the Lift, who were the only team to break 10 hits allowed per 9 innings in Season N1. The bats weren't much better, but they were one of only 4 teams to hit 40 or more triples and 30 or fewer double plays. Sorry to the Lift as well, just not a lot of positive things to talk about. The Yellowstone Magic. The ball was flying at the Park this season as the Magic ranked 3rd in OPS in the league, led by star Kiki Avicha. However, the pitching was nothing special as the Magic were one of 7 teams with fewer than 600 strikeouts on the mound to begin the new era. A special thanks to Abeline on the Sibber Discord for helping parsing and compiling season stats.